Who is that? Ugh, not another battle. Fine, let's get this over with.
Round one. Fight.
Take this!
Fatality.
You have been Gremlin. Ugh, I really need a new catchphrase.
Hello and welcome to another Regal Mystery Movie Review. Today's movie played on April 22nd, 2024. And the movie was... Boy Kills World. A fever dream action film that follows Boy, a deaf and mute man with a vibrant imagination and maybe a touch of schizophrenia. When his family is murdered by the all-powerful Van der Kooi family, he is trained by a mysterious shaman to repress his childish imagination and become an instrument of death. Rated R. Bill Skarsgård plays the boy, the main character of the movie, and he has 0 lines of dialogue throughout the entire film. His internal monologue is narrated by H. John Benjamin. He also sees visions of his dead sister and has full conversations with her. She is played by Quinn Copeland and is a sweet and innocent refresher in this otherwise very heavy and violent movie. As I said, H. John Benjamin is the voice that the boy gives himself in his mind. I thought this was a rather interesting choice. If you're familiar with H. John Benjamin's voice, you'll know that it's not exactly monotone, but he has a very specific way of talking. It sometimes comes off a little flat. He's known for voicing the main character in Bob's Burgers and Archer. He has a very dry and sarcastic tone, which I didn't think would really work with this movie. Thankfully, he turns down some of that sarcasm, and it really makes Boy more relatable. Unfortunately, some of the internal humor kind of fell flat with me. The rest of the cast is full of familiar faces that you may have seen in other places. Jessica Roth plays assassin June 27th. Yes, her name is June 27th. Yayan Ruhian plays the powerful shaman. Andrew Koji is a brash sidekick named Basho. Brett Gelman plays tortured thespian Gideon Van der Kooi. Michelle Dockery and Charlton Copley round out the Van der Kooi siblings, playing Melanie and Glenn respectively. One name I was really excited to see was Famke Janssen, as she plays the matriarch of the Van der Kooi family, Hilda. Unfortunately, her part was very small, and it felt more like a slightly extended cameo. Which stinks for me, because I've enjoyed her in such roles as Jean Grey from the X-Men, and in Nip Tuck. The movie takes place in a generic city where the rich live well and the poor live in squalor. In this city, there's an annual event called The Culling. Think of it as kind of the Hunger Games, just less organized and sponsored by a children's breakfast cereal. Political rivals and dissidents are taken into custody, and they're either killed or put into a gladiator-style fight to the death. Boy's mother was murdered in one of these cullings. At this point in the city, all political dissidents has been wiped clean from the city. Hilda Van der Kooi is paranoid, and she thinks her rival, the shaman, is still out there planning to destroy her. I found this rival shaman angle to be kind of weird, because what would a shaman want to do with a crime boss? It was explained later in the movie, but it still felt weird in the beginning. After the murder of his family, the shaman takes the boy in and begins years and years of training and torture. The shaman's training is very physically demanding and abusive. He also starves the kid. There's also some scenes of the shaman exposing the boy to psychedelic drugs, which does create some funny visuals. As Boy grows up, the shaman still doesn't think that he's ready to exact revenge, but Boy has other plans. This is an action movie first and foremost, and it does not let you forget it. From the very beginning, we are shown the brutal training exercises that Boy has endured. What I found interesting, though, is that they didn't have the stereotypical student becomes master cliche that happens in a lot of action movies. The shaman was always a few steps ahead of Boy. The action is always brutal and very fast-paced. However, there were a few scenes in the beginning of the movie where I thought the action was too dark and with too many quick cuts, and it really made the scenes feel less coherent. Luckily, that only happened for those scenes, and the rest of the action in the movie was very well shot. It's hard to explain how frantic these action scenes are without getting into too much spoilers, but they kind of play out like a video game. After Boy beats up a couple dozen nameless goons, he's then faced with a character who has more personality, kind of like a boss character. And these boss characters have some really odd personality traits. The final battle we see was long and full of hard-hitting action. It borderline overstays its welcome, though, considering how many lethal injuries the characters receive, but they still keep fighting. But overall, you can really feel the hits and injuries. The audience was wincing at every turn. The weird vibe really perpetuates throughout the entire film. Now, personally, as somebody who's generally a very weird person, I would have loved to see more of this weirdness sprinkled out throughout the film. For example, a cheese grater was used as a weapon. Now, if you ever used a cheese grater and have kind of scraped your knuckles on it before, you know that hurts. Now imagine it scraping across your face. It made the audience so uncomfortable that some people even turned their heads away from the screen. I really liked it. It's what Evil Dead Rise should have done when they used a cheese grater. Just skin shreds everywhere. There's also a character named Benny, who's played by Isaiah Mustafa, who co-starred with Bill Skarsgård in It Chapter 2. Now, Benny doesn't speak English, and Boyd doesn't know what he's saying. And since we were hearing this movie through Boyd's internal monologue, he struggles to piece together these gibberish words into functioning sentences. But in keeping with the weirdness of the movie, we the audience are shown imagery of what the boy is saying. So if Boyd thinks Benny said, "Pasta man walking fish on train," that's the imagery that we would see. And it was hilarious. You would see the puzzled look on Boyd's face as he struggles to understand what exactly is being said to him. Now, this comic effect wasn't overdone, but I would have liked a longer glance at the visuals because sometimes they would flash by too quickly and you wouldn't really get a chance to absorb the absurdity that you're seeing. The story will probably be really familiar to fans of action movies. You got a hero who beats up hundreds of goons, takes a licking, and keeps on ticking. The characters act exactly how you would expect them to act, and the plot's twists and turns were pretty much all predictable. Any character development arc is pretty standard. But it's how the movie tells this story that makes it a bit more unique. The over-the-top video game-esque effects really add something to it. One of my personal pet peeves is the over-reliance on CGI, especially CGI blood. Now, I know it's cheaper to do it in post-effects, but I just feel nothing really compares to that on-screen gush. It just looks really weird to see an area where a bunch of goons were just mowed down by gunfire to be completely devoid of blood splatters. However, there was some good use of CGI during the plot reveals. There were some awesome transition shots that contrasted Boyd's memories with reality and had these really cool smoke effects in between. Overall, Boy Kills World tries to separate itself from other action films by employing these video game standards throughout the film. The added caveat of a deaf and mute protagonist with an audible internal monologue is just part of that weirdness that the film is really trying to give you. The overall story is a bit heavier than what I'm used to seeing in these type of movies, but it's still familiar. Unfortunately for me, I think the movie plays it just a little too safe with the weirdness, and it just comes off as a slightly more bizarre standard action movie. I would have loved to see the movie really lean into the outlandish and unconventional aspects of the story. And that is why I'm giving Boy Kills World a bloody 7 out of 10. While I appreciate the attempt to turn the action genre on its head with this offbeat stylization, I just don't think it's quirky enough to really push the envelope forward.
Were you able to avoid the culling and see Boy Kills World? If so, pour your thoughts into the comment cereal bowl below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more butt-kicking content just like this. See you next time.